Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. What a pile of shit! For starters, who is attacking somebody with sticks and stones when you could just get a bat? Secondly, words hurt and they cut deep. Some of the things said to me over the years, well, I'd rather be smashed in the face with a club. This often goes in wrestling too, when a wry line hits a sports entertainer right in the gut, or the tum-tum. So I am Simon from What Culture, please do subscribe. And this is 10 wrestlers who couldn't hide their anger at a real insult. Number 10, Jim Ross. For some reason, Vince McMahon loved taking shots at Jim Ross. All the man ever did was a really good job, but that wasn't enough. We must insult him. It mostly was so Vince could make himself laugh backstage, which shows the dominance WWE had in the 2000s. And McMahon even went as far as to chuckle at JR's Bell's palsy. Straight up, that's not funny. In terms of getting an on-air reaction though, nothing upended Ross more than during one WWE draft in 2008. Despite being quite vocal about wanting to stay on Raw, which was his first mistake, it got announced that yep, Jim was going to smack her down. It's essentially like you finding out your dream job is changing on live TV in front of millions of people, and just look at Ross's face during this. He is quite clearly upset, which he soon told everyone about anyway. It kinda feels like there was no need for this, mostly because there was no need. Number 9, Hulk Hogan. So this one wasn't a real insult, I don't think. It's just so Hulk Hogan, who these days does exist in his own world. He once wrestled 400 times a year, don't you know, after doing some time traveling. His words, not mine. You can't take away his pro wrestling success though, which is why he has been a mainstay for decades, including turning up at the 2006 WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. On this night, Bret Hart was being inducted, with Steve Austin doing the inducting, when the Rattlesnake decided to go for a cheap bop by saying he found a can of whoop-ass with Hogan's name on it in his bag. The Hulkster looked like somebody had just revealed that he's actually bald. The man was so mad. I think he was offended that the fans in attendance erupted for this, and it's crazy. Nobody understands the oversell more than Hogan, and that's all he had to do. Wide eyes, wry smile, would have set the place loopy, but no. How dare this man challenge him to a fight that's never going to happen? It is funny though. It just is. Number 8, Kevin Nash. So this too is really funny. I'm sorry, Big Sexy, but once again, it just is. When the NWO were brought into the WWE in 2002 though, there was a conversation to be had. Not just by the fans as we pondered if this was good or bad, but by the wrestlers backstage too. Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash all had certain reputations, and did they really want that in the locker room? The Rock clearly didn't give a damn either way as he went after these three as much as possible, including on one Raw when he called Nash a big daddy bitch. Now, said out loud, that is very mild, especially for Dwayne Johnson, but for whatever reason, Kevin was so offended by this, he spoke about it for years during shoot interviews. It is fair to say he's over it these days and even said sorry because he is a good dude, but even then, why was he mad? The word bitch is so overused in wrestling, it's kind of like saying headlock. Okay, that's a stretch, but come on. Number 7, Kevin Nash again. Whoops! Here's round 2. It is weird that the former Diesel would appear twice because he is a guy that 1, gets it, and 2, has thrown out many a barb throughout the years, and yet in 2007 he got ruffled again. In his defense, this one makes a little bit more sense. The basic story is this. Nash and Scott Hall had arrived in TNA and were meant to feature big on TNA's Turning Point pay-per-view, which is when Hall didn't show up. Ah dear. Opponent Samoa Joe was understandably annoyed about this, so decided to bury the heck out of Scott during a promo. Now, in reality, Joe was cool because he always is, but after Vince Russo had asked him to lose it on TV, well, he did that too. He's a good employee. Now, the idea was that this was going to be a worked shoot, whereas Kevin felt like Joe had gone too far, and he'd done that old classic, gone into business for himself. Therefore, he smacked Samoa backstage for insulting his friend, and it's the fallout of this that's the best. Apparently the next day, they all shook hands and moved on. Kinda feel like that's the best way to sort these things out. Number 6, Becky Lynch. Do you want to know what's awful? The belt swap angle. Oh, we've switched brands, so you take my title and I'll take yours. Forget bad reigns. This is what ruins championships. It only fell apart in October 2021 when Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch had to do this on an episode of SmackDown. I think because both knew it was gubbins too. Well, that and they had a real life falling out apparently. It is wrestling, so we take it with a pinch of salt, but on Steve Austin's WWE Network show, Lynch explained that the on-paper plan was for the man to grab the Raw title to the surprise of Charlotte. This would give her the moment to beat Becky 2 belts again. A nice tease for the future and the past. She would then throw the title to then GM Sonya Deville, who would give it to Flair, who was then allowed to run Lynch down. So there you go, everybody wins. Clearly the Queen didn't see it this way, because before we even got to round 1, she just dropped the thing on the floor, meaning the rest of the segment was done for. Becky has even admitted she thought something like this was gonna go down. You can also see the look on her face because she is super pissed about it. And then when she went backstage, she lost it. Again, maybe she did and maybe she didn't. But that growl, man, if it's acting, somebody give her an award. I will warn you, if you do decide to watch this though, it is the most awkward thing ever. Number 5, CM Punk. I mean, we can't ignore this one, but yeah, it is a little bit exhausting now, isn't it? It does have a fascinating edge to it, however, because when CM Punk had his promo off with Hangman Adam Page before Double or Nothing 2022, nobody thought anything of it. I know I didn't. It was just a good exchange between two pros. It then blew off the handle when after the fact Punk returned to TV and called out Page in an unplanned segment. And yeah, it all came out. For during this initial war of words, the cowboy had dropped in a line about workers' rights, and that was the insinuation that Punk had potentially cost old friend Colt Cabana his job. That led into the idea that CM was not the same person behind the scenes as he was in front of the camera, and oh my gosh, CM Punk didn't like any of this. Watching it back, it's far more obvious as Punk's face sort of smiles like, what is going on here? But it's his eyes, I tell you. They've got the whole story. He is soon scowling too, which is the ultimate proof, and from this point on, it was going to be a whirlwind nightmare. We can just leave it there though. We all know the rest. Number 4, The Undertaker. When Chris Jericho arrived in the WWE in 1999, he wanted to go straight to the top. Makes sense. Clearly somebody felt the same as he was throwing barbs at the likes of The Rock and The Undertaker, when, whoops, he said the wrong thing to the dead man. It was only his second week in during August of that year, but after the Phenom had done that promo where he went on and on about riding a bike with the Big Show, Chris appeared and said this was really boring. I mean, he wasn't wrong. I still don't know what he's going on about. He also called the pair slugs, and yeah, Taker was pissed. It put Jericho in the doghouse right away, a position he had to really work hard to pull himself out of. The best part though is the Undertaker's face in the ring. Dude is so furious, he ain't no slug. Number 3, Roman Reigns. John Cena's nickname for the second half of his career should be the Verbal Eviscerator. Always preempted with that nice speech quip, Cena would get a microphone and just wreck people. Didn't care who you were either. If you dropped the ball, John would take the thing and throw it into space. You ain't ever getting it back. This brings us to late 2017 when Cena and new star Roman Reigns were finally going to go at it. And it happened again. John told Roman how he was manufactured, fake, a fraud, and the crowd hated him, and at this rate, he was going to go nowhere fast. It got more brutal, because when Reigns stumbled over his line, Cena jumped in with the now famous, "It's called a promo, big dog. You're going to have to learn how to cut one." That was the home run. Roman's face creased up in utter despair. I bet this was one of those moments when Reigns had 1,000 great comebacks after the fact, but his brain did him dirty here. He kind of just looked at Cena like he was a lost puppy. He then also said, "They boo you because they see right through you," which was not all that great. Game, set, and match. Number 2, The Rock, which brings us to round 2 courtesy of John Cena. This guy, it really does underline his last decade or so in the company when he was on a tear, even when facing Hollywood royalty. Now let's not forget who we're talking about here. Somebody says that Dwayne Johnson is the best promo ever. Cool, yeah, I get it. That didn't stop Cena as they built up their WrestleMania program, however. And dare I say it, he may have come out on top here. The real KO is what everybody still talks about today, which is Johnny noticing The Rock had promo notes written on his wrist, and he mentioned this on live TV. Now, as we have talked about, this could be the ultimate work by 2 super pros, but go and see the evidence for yourself. The Great One looks ready to explode to me, and definitely gets in Cena's face in a pretty aggressive way. His comeback didn't help ever, as he just called himself a big man, but again, I think The Rock was taken aback by this. John Cena had just broken the wrestler's code to create some buzz, and let's be fair, it totally worked. Number 1, Triple H. A lot of what was said between DX and the Hart Foundation back in the 90s was not okay. It was even worse with the Nation of Domination. We should never do this again. In 1997, it had gone off the rails as Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels were at each other's throats for real, and soon it became a proper war as each group kept taking shots all the damn time. One that stands out was in October, and is frankly inexcusable, when the Hitman insinuated what the H in Triple H could stand for. I'm sure you can work it out. I'm not saying it here or anywhere. The interesting part is the reaction, because Hunter grabs a mic and is all, yeah, whatever. Is that the best you've got? Just makes the whole exchange so weird, and it's exactly why there's no place for it in wrestling or life. It's not an insult. Just let people live their lives. It does seem like Triple H was a little peeved that Bret had gone in this direction, though. as he should have been. Again, don't do it. Respect for all. Know of any other wrestlers that couldn't hide their anger after a real insult? Well, we've got a comment box down there which you should go into and let us know. Before you like the video, share the video, and maybe subscribe. You can also head over to whatculture.com where you can read more articles like this, and we'll keep you up to date with the latest wrestling news, as we shall do on social media, so give us a follow. But more importantly, thank you for stopping by today, my friends, and I will talk to you very, very soon.